You need to start treating men like your employees. Yes, I did just say that. You need to start treating men like your employees, okay? And you might say, what about equality? What about mutual respect? What about love? Girl, we'll get into it. Just hang on for a minute. And if you're a man, welcome. Maybe you'll feel triggered to leave a wonderfully vile comment on this video. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for boosting this video. If you're the type of girl who's used to being pushed around, you're used to always feeling like you're the one who ends with the short end of the stick. Maybe you're someone who ends up in relationships with men that always promise you the world, they love bomb you, and they talk to you about how much you guys are gonna have all of these children and you're gonna do all of these things and you're gonna build a legacy together. And you're tired. You're tired of the BS that these men are constantly spurting, and you're like, what can I do? What can I do to make myself more protected? And what can I do to make sure that this does not happen to me again? Well, honey bun, sweetie pie, fluffy unicorn girly, you are gonna have to start treating men like they're your employees. And a lot of you might say, well, I don't want to treat men like they're inferior. I'm all about equality. Well, the thing is, you know what? You are the creator. You can literally create life within your body. But you know what? A man needs to only supply you with materials to be able to do that. He cannot build the baby. He cannot build life within his body. And if that is not enough argument for you to understand that the man is actually an employee and you are the CEO of the company that is your divine, amazing creation of the body of a person, then I don't know, maybe you need to leave this video. Maybe this video is not for you. The reason why you are the one writing all of the paragraphs, you feel like you're the one left in the gutter and you are the one who always has to initiate and you feel like you're never getting anything even though you're a nice, good, loyal woman, is because you're treating the man like he's the CEO and that you have to listen to whatever little whim that he says and you have to guess whatever is on his mind and try to make yourself palatable to him in order for you to be able to feel any type of happiness or calmness within yourself. If you are a woman, especially if you are a neurodivergent woman, there's a good chance that you grew up feeling like you need to make everyone apart from yourself feel good in order for you to feel good. You needed to control the circumstances around you in order for you to feel like you were in control and that you could relax. This is something that is extremely common among women, but especially neurodivergent women. And I know for a fact, as a neurodivergent woman myself, that if you're someone who's grown up being a people pleaser, maybe you've been oversharing to feel like you need to get that closeness to people. Like you can't get that closeness to people without you oversharing. Maybe you always want to give a reason and explain yourself to everyone like, oh, the reason I'm doing this is because of that. And the reason that I'm doing that, buying this, going here is because of that. Maybe you're even the type of person that every single time you have to make a decision in your life, you have to ask someone about their opinion. There are a lot of you girls out there that do this. And I'm not saying this because I do not think that you're doing good. You're doing good. If you're watching this video, you're doing amazing. But I want more. I want better for you because I know you deserve more and you deserve better. You deserve to see yourself as the CEO of your own company, which you are. You are literally the only person you can control is yourself. But when you start seeing men as your employees instead of just we're all equal and we're all supposed to be good and dandy and we're all the same, then you'll start actually valuing your own power, your own time, and your own resources way more. Because you know what we usually do as women? We become so accustomed to taking everything as an abstract concept. We're so used to measuring everything in love and hugs. Everything is built on feelings and vibes. And this has a tendency to lead us to actually not really be able to see our own inherent value. But you know what value we can easily see? We can easily see the value of a Birkin bag. We can easily see why someone shouldn't be able to get access to a Birkin bag like this, because it takes a certain type of person to be able to buy a Birkin bag, even come into the vicinity of being in your mess store. But when it comes to guarding our own self, when it comes to protecting our own power, building our own self up, we don't have that boundary because we see ourselves as an abstract concept that is supposed to be flowy like water. And, we're supposed to always be mendable and, be there for other people around us. That's because we've been fed this. We need to be there for everyone and their mom before we can be there for ourselves. BS from we're literally born. I remember vividly growing up that if a boy was out playing with another boy and they're like wrestling, they would just say, oh, boys will be boys. But if a girl was being a little rowdy, she's a little loud, she's out running and jumping and all of this, and she wants to take up space and she wants to, say what's on her mind and decide how things are gonna go, then suddenly she's bossy. Ooh, why don't you just sit down and draw? I remember growing up that I was definitely told that I was bossy. And for many, many years, I was like, oh, I don't want to be bossy. I don't want to be considered someone who's bossy, because bossy is a negative word. But you know what? If a man was doing the same thing, if a little boy was doing the exact same thing, if a little boy was, telling people, ooh, this is what I want and this is how I'm going to run things and this is exactly what I want in my life, people would be like, ooh, he's strategic. He's a straight shooter. He knows exactly how to go for gold. But if it's a woman, suddenly, ooh, she's bossy. Ooh, she's a diva. Oh, you're going to have to try to control her. But if it's a boy, suddenly we're all applauding. Suddenly we're all, oh, he's going to go very, very far. And when it's a girl, it's, oh, you're going to have to try to keep her controlled. And what does that have to do with treating men like employees? Well, it has to do with this. Well, if men are going to call you bossy for knowing exactly what you want in your life and just being unapologetic about it, then you're just going to have to assume that they're your employee. You know what happens when someone is an employee of a CEO? Well, first and foremost, in order for them to be able to be in their company, and now we're both talking in the company, like the company that you're managing, aka you, but also in your company. That's why it works so well. If they are supposed to be in your company on both levels, they need to be able to provide value. Because you know what an employer doesn't do? But I'm not going to have you go out there and tell men that you're making them your employees, because then you're going to be revealing your cards too much and then they are going to try to make it a problem for you. So this is not what you're going to tell them, but you're going to implement this in your mentality. The reason why it's such a good idea to start treating men like employees mentally is because you will become more emotionally detached from them and you will start being able to make much clearer demands from them. You have to start thinking of your own life like it's a company that you're running. And if you want it to run smooth, you cannot be running around sending them paragraphs about this and this and that they're doing wrong. You cannot be, up in their face and crying. You're the one with the power. You're the one with the company, and they're the one who are supposed to be your employees. So why are you acting like they are literally the CEO and you're not the CEO? If you're serious about being the prize in a relationship or in relation to men that you're dating or whoever, then you have to understand that you have to act like you're the CEO. And a CEO who's actually seen as a good CEO or who's has a good relationship with their employee is a CEO who knows how to inspire their employees and who knows how to talk to her employees in a way that makes them understand that they need to be of help and they need to be able to provide value to the company. And if they cannot provide that value, that means that they are in risk of being fired. Because you guys are too nice when it comes to not firing people that are working for your company. You know what a lot of women have a tendency to do? They have a tendency to, they act like they want to be the CEO of the company. They want to be the prize. But you know what? They're literally taking on all of the work of the employees. Whenever something that the employees are doing, they don't like done, then they go and then they fix it and then they do it better. And then they're like, you should do it better. You should do it like this. You know what? You're not going to have that CEO position for very, very long, or you're not going to have a smooth running company for very, very long. If the only thing that you can do is to go to your workers and tell them, you're not doing this right, let me do it for you. Because the reason you have employees is to make things easier for yourself, okay? It's not to make you do everything for them so you can prove how fantastic you are at it. Maybe you can do everything by yourself. That's why you have the company. That's why you exist. But if people should be employed at your company, they need to be able to provide value. So you're not here to go and fix whatever they're doing for them. Men actually want to be of service to you in your company, but they can't, because every time that they do something wrong, you want to micromanage it, and you want to show that you can do it better. And you know what? They don't want to be employed by someone who doesn't have any faith in them. They don't want to be in the company of someone who doesn't have any faith in them. And there's of course a limit, because there's also a limit to how many times that they can mess up and then you will fire them. And this is why we have to talk about why you also need to be comfortable with firing men from your life that are not living up to the workload that you have given to them. Your company has certain goals, vision, mission. That's what a company does. A company has certain things they want to achieve. They have certain things that they want to get. You have to think of yourself as the company. If you actually want to really think of yourself in more value, one thing that can be very, very good to do is to sit down and do a business, a marketing evaluation of yourself as if you were a company. And then you're going to get very, very, very into the nitty gritty of what it means. Like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? And what are your threats? A SWOT analysis, okay? You need to SWOT analysis yourself. Maybe I should do a video about how you can SWOT analysis yourself another time, but we'll get into that. But when you start thinking of yourself as a company, you will also actually be much more aware of when people are actually, it's time for them to get fired. It's time for them to leave this company because they're not adding any more value. They could be of more value somewhere else, because not all employees are suited to work in the business that you run. And sometimes we let people stay around just for the niceness of knowing that, ooh, look, I'm a nice person. I employed, like, it's a mercy employee. It's like employing someone to make yourself feel better. But you know what? Your business is not going to make more money. Your business is not going to become better. You're not going to get more growth in your business. That's what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to grow your business, yourself. You can't do that if someone is literally just sitting and playing video games. And you know what women have a tendency to do with the men that are just sitting and playing video games? They go and they're like, honey, why are you just playing video games? Why can't we go on a date? Why can't we do this? You should do this. You should do that, blah, 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 blah. And then the guy starts talking about mental health or something. Ooh, oh, he used the word mental health. That means that he's such a good guy. You know what? When you work at a company, you get like a mental health day. You get a personal day. Okay? You get a personal day. You can use the mental health card like once, but if you do not show up and change your behavior, you're fired. And you know what? The company might invite you in for a little talk and say, you know what? You did this and this and that, and we're just going to have to let you go. But you know what? You're not going to get like some, oh, we're going to go again. You know what that's called? That's called a warning. That is called a warning. So if you're seeing some like red flags or something pop up, you're going to have to be like, oh, that was the company warning. Because when you go to fire someone, the warning's already been there. And if they did not rise to the occasion, then you're not going to give them another, like, if a guy is employed at a company and during his whole time there, he's only like eating chips and playing video games and talking about how his mental health is really bad. And he's just, I mean, he is going to do something about his life, but not right now. And, you know, we're going to go on a date maybe someday. You know what the CEO is not going to do to this person when it's time to fire them? They're not going to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for your circumstances. I'm so sorry that you're going through all of this. You know, we're going to support you. I'm going to be there for you. I'm sorry if I said anything. But that's what women have a tendency to do. That's what women have a tendency to do. They set a boundary, or they tell their man something that they want in their life. They start becoming clearer about what it is that they want. And now the man pulls out the excuses. And now it ends up being the woman who ends up apologizing, like if she did something bad, because she's afraid of losing this guy because they've built so much together. The only thing you have to build is your own company. That's why when you build your company, you do not make some man your executive until you've actually vetted him. That's why you do not let everyone and their mom, aka men, you do not let them in on your company secrets until you know that you can trust them. This goes out to all of you oversharing girlies, all of you girlies that feel like you need to trauma dump on a man the first time you meet him. You do not let a man in on your company secrets the first time you meet him. You do not know if this guy is someone who's going to be your executive, okay? Think about the man that you might marry. He might be the executive. He might be the the one who's below the CEO. You're the CEO because you're the one created, you're the factory of this. But he's the executive. He knows how to run a little bit. I mean, honestly, the executive probably does more than the CEO. The CEO is like, this is my company and I'm gonna do what I want to do. But you will never get anyone that you can trust in an executive position as your right hand if you let them in on your company secrets the first time you meet them. Think about it like that. If your company is employing someone and the first time you meet them, you tell them the secret recipe for your spaghetti bolognese business, what are they going to do? They're going to use that against you, okay? That is exactly what happens when you go out and you overshare every little detail about your life, every little trauma thing you went through, every little thing that you're working on. A company doesn't do that to people they're just meeting, they're trying to employ. They employ them for a very specific job. So you got to figure out what in your life needs very specific help. Maybe the men in your life need to fulfill different roles because they have different roles in the company. They will never have the same role, all of them. And if they act really, really nice, they may be promoted. Now they get more access. Now they can actually talk more to you, but you're still the one in charge. And the reason why I say that it's such a good idea to start talking about men or thinking about men as your employees is because you do develop less of an emotional connection or less of an attachment to them. And I'm not saying you cannot have attachment to a man. Of course, there are men out there, absolutely amazing, brilliant men that definitely do deserve your time and that you can build long-lasting relationships with. But my content is for girlies that definitely understand that they have had compromises when it comes to their boundaries. They felt like they need to be better at setting their standard and they want more. And in this case, one thing that you need to get good at is to be less attached. Not because you cannot be attached. And that doesn't mean that you cannot have passion. It doesn't mean that you cannot love your employees. It does not mean that you cannot think that what their work they're doing is great. That's exactly why you have Employee of the Month. That is exactly why when someone does a really good job, you give them a star. You let them know, and you are not afraid of letting them know that they do a really, really good job because you know what? They're going to continue doing a really, really good job. That is exactly how men work. Men respond to you praising them for the work that they're doing. That is really, really good. So whenever they do something in your life that you really appreciate, maybe they help you out with something money-wise, maybe they help you out with something, putting up some shelves, maybe they help you out with whatever it is they are helping you out with. You need to praise that. Think about it. If they were your employee, wouldn't that employee want to know that they're doing a really, really good job so they can continue doing a really, really good job? Because if they're not really appreciated by their boss, they're going to find some other boss who's appreciating them more that they're going to work for, because they're not going to work for some boss who's just like sitting in their office being like, oh, I don't care. Oh, your work is probably good. I don't care about you. You will never be a good boss to a man, your employees, if you are constantly ignoring them every single time they do something for you. And then the only thing you want to bring up is every time they're doing something wrong. Do you think that this person wants to work for you? No, they don't. Do you think this person is passionate about your vision, your mission, and everything that you want in your life? No, they're not. Do you think that they want to bring more to you? No, they don't. They do not want to build your company. They do not want to help to build your company, even if they're just like laying a couple puzzle pieces in the big scheme of it. They do not want to do that if you're not praising them for what they're doing right. But at the same time, you have to get really, really good at cutting those people out that are not actually adding any value to the company because they're an expense. Because every single time you have someone in your company that are not adding value, they're just taking value. They're just taking energy. When you employ someone in your company and they're not adding any value, they're probably taking value through a salary. And what is a salary when it comes to being an employee and the CEO of being you? Well, a salary is your energy. They're taking your energy, they're taking your power that you could be actually focusing on other employees, that you could be focusing on other people in your life. And remember this, not every single employee in a company has a personal relationship with the person that is the CEO. Not every single person who's an employee has a personal relationship. You cannot be letting these men act like they have prime access to you as a CEO when they're in reality not working right beside you. If they're not your executive, aka maybe your husband or like a really, really long-term relationship, then why are you acting like they can have that access? They haven't worked enough. They haven't proved enough. Haven't given enough value to the company for you to actually let them have that personal relationship with you. It's kind of like how they wouldn't call you by your first name unless they knew you like that. And you might be thinking, well, I all want us to be equal. Why can't we just all be equal? And there might be some men that are watching this video. They probably wouldn't make it this far though, because you know what? They're probably already commented whatever they want to comment in the comment section about how I'm only like a 2 out of 10 and I'm wearing too much makeup anyways. And my foundation is like, there's way too much foundation on my face and that I hate men and all of this stuff. They probably wouldn't make it this far. But we have to understand that men are always thinking that we are their employees in reality. There is such a huge pattern of women feeling like they need to take orders from men, and that women think that if they do not live up to the expectations of men, like as if they're their boss, even though they're just like their boyfriend that they don't even have any legal obligation to, then fire might burn and they might be fired. Like that's how a lot of women think that their relationships are. But when it comes to them seeing themselves in a position of power of being a CEO of their own company and now employing men, now we want to talk about equality. What about the men? You know what? The men are very, very happy knowing that women are willing to do everything that they want for them. They're very, very happy knowing that the women are going to come and apologize and do a better job, even though that they're literally the ones who can bear life and create life. Men are very, very happy to be in that position. That is exactly why you feel very, very uncomfortable with the fact that I'm saying that you're not supposed to be feeling like it's equal. You're supposed to be feeling like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna put myself in the position where I am a CEO of the company, which is me, my life. And whoever wants to be a part of this company, which is a company, it's a serious company that I'm running, they need to be able to provide value. They need to be able to give me more and increase the value of this company. Because if not, then why are they there? That is exactly how men have a tendency to think about women. Not all men are like that. You know why a lot of men might seem like they don't think like that? It's because they don't tell it to you. Because if they told that to you, you would literally be like, but if you're a beautiful woman, men can literally get something out of being around you just from looking at you. That is enough value to their company. If you've ever seen one of the like MMA fights where it's like some woman walking around with numbers on like a cardboard or whatever, like a sign, like a number sign, she's walking around, she's looking really, really hot. That woman is probably, I don't know how much she's paid, but she's paid. I know for a fact that she's paid to show those numbers. Just her looking that good is enough for her to be able to be paid, to be employed. Just the presence of feminine female energy is enough for men to feel like they get something out of you. But imagine the roles were reversed and now it's like a female boxing fight and it's some dude in like shorts that are like walking around with the numbers. And you might think, well, we don't need to do that to be able to have the female boxing fight. It's fine enough without it. And that's exactly why we have to be able to put ourselves in the position where we think that we are the CEO, and we put ourselves in that position where we actually take ourselves out of the emotional component that it means to be in relationships or like having like companionship with men, because just our presence, the female presence in a room, is powerful. Yet we are the ones who are apologizing. We are the ones who are, fine with being told, oh, this is what I want. This is how I want my life to be. And we're like, okay, I'll do that and I'll make you happy until 20 years later where it's like, you know what? I'm going to have a divorce. There's a reason why most women are the ones who initiate divorces. It's because you know what happens when you go into relationships with men? It's because women think that when they get into the relationship or they get into the marriage or whatever, then they can change things. They actually change themselves to be able to fit as a mold around the man, while the man is just assuming that this is how the woman is. And that is how us women actually end up becoming employees of men, because we are trying to fit we're literally going up to a man like a telemarketer saying, do you want to hire me? 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 I will jump, I will skip, I will do whatever you want. And then when we get into a relationship, then I'm going to be like, you know what? I think I want different. Women clock later in their lives when they've been married for so and so many years that, oh, I was actually molding myself to be what this man wanted me to be. And this is why we have to become better at seeing ourselves as the person who's in the position of power, who is the one who is the CEO. This is the mission and the vision and what I want for my company, what I want for me. And then you have to be comfortable leading with that. And I'm not saying that as soon as you meet a man, you're going to be like, this is what I want, this is how it's going to go, and this is how it's going to be. But you're going to have that in your mind, because maybe he's just going to be an employee that fixes some of the bottom tier work in your company. And that doesn't mean that he has to be a part of all your dreams and all of that. But if he's going to be an executive, aka your husband, then you're going to have to be clear about what are the values of this company and do you fit within the values of this company. The CEO is not going to have to adapt themselves to one of the employees that are lower than them. They're not going to adapt their company, which is their idea, that's their creation, that they've worked for, that they've grown, that they've created. They're not going to be like, oh, we're suddenly going to change everything because some person that I really want to have in my company said that we should change this, or I'm afraid that this employee is not going to want to work for me if I don't change this about the company. You know what? That employee is going to be like, this employer is kind of strange. My boss, she's interesting because I feel like she's always trying to make me say what she wants to do. And then I don't feel like I'm actually going to be able to do the work that I need to do because I don't feel like I really know what the company wants from me. She's constantly asking me what I would like. Can you see? Can you see what I'm saying? The people are like, men actually like being employees. They like being employees in your life. You just have to become comfortable with the role of letting men know what it is that you want them to do. And you don't have to be some mean boss. That could be said in a very, very nice way. Oh, you know what? I really, really need help with this. Could you help me with that? Oh, you know what? I'm having some issues with this and this and that. Could you help me with that? And when people can't figure out how to do it, if they don't do it perfectly, it's not your job to go and cuss them out and fix it for them because you're the CEO. You don't have time for that. You have bigger things to do. You have bigger fish to fry. You're going to let them figure it out. And if they can't figure it out, they're going to be replaced. That is exactly, if you're dealing with a man who's not willing to do anything in your life, that's why you attract your energy. You're like, you know what? You're fired. And you don't have to send them a whole paragraph and a note and all of that like you're doing with an actual employee. You're just going to be like, oh, you know what? I've been noticing that this person is not doing what they need to do. That makes my company with my values, my visions, my needs run around. In order for us to be able to clock our numbers and be able to raise the value of this company, you always have to think about raising the value of your company. Then I need certain things to be in order, okay? And if they're not in order, the CEO never goes down to talk to that employee and be like, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. Here's a paragraph of how angry I am and how sad I am and how if we communicated better, this could work out. This could work out. I've done so much. I've sacrificed so much for you. The CEO would never say that. The CEO would be like, I clocked this. I clocked that you haven't really done what you're wanting to do, but if you want to keep working here, if you want to stay in my life, I would really like for you to do a little bit more of this and this and that. I'd really like for us to go on more dates. And you know what? If that employee doesn't do that, then the consequences of that will that they won't be in your life. The reason why I think treating men like employees is so powerful for women, especially women that feel like they've been pushed over for a lot of their lives, is that it really makes you realize more of your own value, because a lot of the times we have a tendency to not really value ourselves in relation to other people because we think we need to be this abstract being and we think we need to put everyone at the same level of value. Not that we're not all valuable, but in running your company, some people are going to be more valuable than other people. That's just a fact. And when we think of things more technically or more instrumentally, we will actually become way better at deciding whether people deserve to be in our lives or not. This is also why I say it's actually a really, really good idea to sit down and do a company analysis of yourself. And maybe I should do that in a different episode because I think that would actually be very, very good to talk about. how you can analyze your own strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. Because when you think of yourself as a company, you also become much more aware of making sure that your company runs smooth. And then you don't let yourself become attached to things, because a CEO sometimes has to be a little ruthless in order to make her company run around, or else the company will go bankrupt. And that is you losing yourself. And you cannot afford to do that. So you have to fight for your company, which is yourself. Okay? So treat men like employees. And thank you to all the men in the comment section that are probably going to say a bunch of stuff. Love you.